Now we have some sad news to bring you, and Britain's first £1 million player, Trevor Francis, has died at the age of 69. A statement from his family has said this: Trevor Francis has died at the age of 69. He had a heart attack at his apartment in Spain this morning. On behalf of the family, this has come as a huge shock to everybody. We are all very upset. He was a legendary footballer, but he was also an extremely nice person, they say. Kaveh Solokor's joined me on set to reflect on Trevor Francis's career and life. He will always be in the history books, won't he? And a hero to so many as well.
Yeah, I think you have to be of a certain age to appreciate what a great player Trevor Francis was. I think he will go down in history not just as the first British £1 million player, but also one of the best English players of all time. I was fortunate enough to watch him play live towards the end of his career when he was playing for Queen's Park Rangers, and he was an incredible player to watch. I mean, his touch, his vision, his movement, some of the goals he scored for Queen's Park Rangers are still talked about to this day. And I had the pleasure of meeting him a few times here at Sky Studios, and I think the last time I met him, I actually stopped and spoke to him and told him that he was one of the best players I'd ever seen in my life. And I think he was quite touched by that. But I was being totally honest.
Yeah.
You know, skill-wise and ability-wise, he was one of the greatest players I've ever seen. And he had an incredible career, starting off in 1970 at Birmingham City, his hometown club. He played for them when he was 16. I think in one game he scored 4 goals against Bolton. He started off when Birmingham City were in the second division. Then he played for them in the first division. He was there for 9 seasons before this incredible move to Nottingham Forest. And that move was incredible, not just because it was for £1 million. I mean, £1 million in 1979 was an extraordinary amount of money, but also because of what Nottingham Forest had done. You know, they'd gone from the second division, their first season back in the top flight, they won the title. Then the following season, they won the European Cup. Then they won the European Cup again. I mean, to put it into context, it's something like Sheffield United next season winning the title, and then the following season winning the Champions League, and then winning the Champions League again. He joined Nottingham Forest when they were the champions. Brian Clough signed him. I think it was famously when he was introduced to the press, Brian Clough turned up in his squash kit with a squash racket because he was going off to play a squash game straight after the news conference. And Trevor Francis went on to score one of the most famous goals in English football, the winning goal in the 1979 European Cup final. Brilliant header after a great cross from John Robertson. And it was really interesting. I don't know if this story is true, but Brian Clough always used to say that Trevor Francis didn't actually cost £1 million. He said he cost £999,999, just £1 less than £1 million, just to take the pressure off Trevor Francis, because he didn't want him to have that tag of being the first £1 million player. But in actual fact, I think the transfer was actually worth £1,150,000 because of the levy that you had to pay the Football Association as well. But he was an incredible player, incredible man, and you know, I know a lot of our viewers will be too young to realise how good he was, but I would urge them to get on the internet, have a look at some of his goals, because some of the goals he scored for Birmingham City, for Sampdoria, for Queen's Park Rangers, for Sheffield Wednesday, for Rangers, for Atlanta, truly extraordinary player.
It's interesting you talk about that price tag, maybe laying heavy on his shoulders. I think that's because he was a very humble man. If ever I had a conversation with him, he was extremely humble. And I think that's what we'll see in terms of people talking about it.
Yeah, he was a very private man. I don't think he was too comfortable with being in the media spotlight. No. Interestingly, after he retired as a manager, because he managed QPR, Sheffield Wednesday, Birmingham City, Crystal Palace, he worked in broadcasting. He worked for Sky. I think he worked for BT Sport as well. He was an absolutely brilliant analyst. You know, hearing him analyse games and analyse players, you really learnt something new every time he spoke. But yes, it's fair to say that he was a private person. And just one story I'll tell you about him, actually, because a year ago I was in a bookshop, and as you do, I was looking in the sports section, and it didn't have a very big sports section, but it had a few football autobiographies. Messi, Ronaldo, Pele, Maradona, and it had a Trevor Francis's autobiography as well, called One in a Million. Brilliant title for his autobiography. And I got talking to the bookseller about why he had, why they were stocking Trevor Francis's autobiography. I thought maybe he's a QPR fan or he's a Birmingham City fan. And he just said, no, he loved Trevor Francis as a player. He thought he was such an extraordinary player, which is why he'd ordered in the book. And I ended up buying the book because I wanted to find out more about Trevor Francis. And there wasn't really that much in the book about him because I think, as you said, he was a very humble person. He was a very private person. And I think he sort of, showed what he could do on the football pitch. He didn't really want to talk about himself or his career or what he achieved. But as I said, if you've got a chance this afternoon or later this evening, get on your laptop or your computer or your smartphone and just look at some of the extraordinary goals he scored.
Yeah, Carve, thank you very much for those kind words. Thank you.